Well, hello. My name is Hernelli Bonilla.
Well, hi there, Hernelli.
I'm Charlene.
Hi, Charlene. And I am Mr. Estella.
Okay, nice to meet you.
Right.
Yeah. So we're pretty
Sometimes
much
pronounced Estella.
Estella. Nice. So we're pretty much gonna ask you a couple of questions because
Sure.
we're pretty much interested in, your life, and we've noticed that there's a recurring theme of service going on in your life, and how
Okay.
you seem, experienced with service.
Okay.
So here's the first question.
Okay. How was your life growing up?
My life growing up, I'm a son of immigrants. They came here from the Philippine Islands after World War II, and I'm their first American-born child.
Oh, cool.
Grew up in a trilingual home where they spoke Spanish, English, and Tagalog in that order. And my parents had lots of international friends, so I grew up with about a dozen languages around me, which is probably why I'm an ESL teacher. I was born in Manhattan, in the Upper West Side before it became real, fancy schmancy.
Mm-hmm.
And then we moved out to Queens, where I grew up largely in a section called Elmhurst. Went to grade school there, St. Bartholomew's Parish School. I went to Catholic all-boys private high school in Manhattan, graduated from there, and went into the United States Air Force, and I guess I was supposed to be grown up by that time.
Cool. Well, what were some of the important social issues during those times?
Yeah, probably the biggest thing when I was a kid was growing up as one of the few ethnically Spanish-speaking families in the neighborhood. At that time, it was a neighborhood mostly of sort of Irish and German, Eastern European working people, and my family, with a few others, were the only Latino families in the neighborhood, and was made those issues of prejudice, of race relations, and the kinds of things were impressed on me at an early age.
Mm-hmm. So
kids would make fun of me if I mispronounced a word or something. Oh, you don't know how to talk English.
Wow. So during those moments, who was your role model and why?
Wow. Boyhood role model?
Yeah.
Because
I think
you kind of get one of those as a kid, and then you just... But believe it or not, I got into Teddy Roosevelt as a kid.
The president?
The president. That was before I found out that he was quite a imperialistic sort of character. Who knew that at the age of 6 or 7?
So wait, World War II, Teddy Roosevelt?
Teddy Roosevelt, prior to World War I.
Oh,
Turn
okay.
of the 19th to the 20th century.
Oh, okay, cool.
He was just one of these guys born and raised in New York City, but went out to live in a ranch out west. He was an adventurer. He was a collector. He loved the fine arts. He was kind of one of these like well-rounded kind of guys. I thought he was cool. Mm-hmm. And he was also one of the original inspirations of our national conservation movement. National parks, the American Museum of Natural History honors him.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Cool.
So, growing up, did you ever feel like you wanted to change the world? And if so, how?
Growing up, probably not. As a little kid. I think that whole notion of change the world never really hit me until maybe much later, after the age of 21 or so.
Mm-hmm.
I never really embraced that idea as... I was always idealistic in some form or another, but it never really came together until I started to sort of find a bigger vision about life. So like during high school, I went to a Catholic high school. I sort of learned the party line there. And then I went to college for a very short time, a year, and then dropped out to join the Air Force and spent 4 years in that. And really that was the period, ages 19 to 23, that were more of a turning point for me. Either that or I'm just still a teenager that hasn't grown up yet.
But what made you want to go into the Air Force?
Very practical reason. I am old enough to go back to the Vietnam era. We used to have a draft. The draft had a lottery. Mm-hmm. I won the lottery, which meant that if I didn't do anything about it, I would have been dragged into the Army against my will. I thought, well, I'm patriotic enough not to leave the country, as some people did. And I thought, I'll make the choice myself about how I want to serve. So I joined the United States Air Force, which is, in parentheses, the United States Geek Force. It was designed for people just like me who are not fighters, who would learn a technical skill or some other kind of associate career field in the military effort. And so I joined the Air Force knowing I would never have to shoot a gun or go into any dangerous places. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Right.
Feel free.
So when you became involved in the military, what do you think was the purpose or the issue that you were fighting for?
Well, here again, I went into the Air Force so I wouldn't have to fight for anything. I went in to avoid being drafted into the Army. And part of that, by the way, on a personal level, I'm proud to say my big brother was killed in Vietnam. He was 14 years older than I. I was 15 years old. He was 29. 3 days before his birthday, he was shot in Vietnam as a soldier. And I didn't want to be son number two in that direction. But I'm proud to be American. I'm American born, and I believe in our country, and I wanted to serve properly. So that's why I joined the Air Force. Yes, if I were in a situation where I had to defend and protect the Constitution, I would have done that. But by and large, my daily work involved, in that 4 years, 9 months of technical training in electronics, and then I fixed airplanes.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So after your service, did your perspective on politics change?
Well, yeah, a lot of things changed. During my time in the Air Force, I kind of grew up in some respects. Finally, maybe some of the adolescent developed into adult, although I still got a lot of adolescent left in me, which is why I teach high school. Don't ask any other teachers if that's true, but it's true for me. Yeah, forever team. Our biggest perspective for me was, quite frankly, a spiritual one. And so at the age of 21, I kind of went through what a lot of young people go through, a sort of questioning of everything, sort of went through a kind of very brief sort of atheist phase, and the only thing that's true is what you can see, hear, smell, touch, or taste. Then I realized, wait a minute, that's a pretty narrow vision of life. And I came sort of full circle back to somewhat to my spiritual roots and re-embraced Christianity. By doing so, though, it's not that I just sort of got religious. I got an entire new way of looking at things, what we call a worldview. And so, things like changing the world all of a sudden became important because people became important. And people became important because there is a God who made people and desires that people work and live and love together.
In their own will.
And exactly, and that this way, that became important. No longer, in a sense, no longer was life about, for me, just learning to get a good job and make money and run the rat race and the little cage, the rat in the little cage. Seems to me there had to be more to life than that, and I found that in that spiritual rediscovery.
So, touching on the theme of what you're talking about, spirituality and your, involvement in the church, what did you hope to accomplish by becoming a leader of the church community?
Oh, yeah. That's sort of the next phase. I started to think what I would want to do when I got out of the Air Force. I had decided that I didn't want to make a career of it. You could stay 20 years and collect a pension and still be young enough to try another career. But I chose not to do that. After my 4 years were up, I knew I wanted to go back to college and and get my degree and all that. And I thought about a number of things, and I'll get to it later. But one of them was teaching. At one point when I was 20, I thought I'll get out of the Air Force, I'll go back to college, and I'll major in history and become a high school history teacher, just like that. that kind of went on hold, and I felt that what we call a call or a pull or a nudge to go into the ministry of the church. And so I went back to college. That's where I met and married my wife there. And then I went to theological seminary, which is a graduate school, 3 years, where I got my Master of Divinity degree. And then I was examined and ordained in a Protestant church denomination called the Reformed Church in America, and started serving in various churches as a pastor. I've served, I'm trying to think, 6 churches in at least 4 different states in 20 years of time.
Cool.
And my view of changing the world is a little different than others. It's changing the world one human being at a time. I'm not into big plans, big schemes, big programs. Some people are, that's cool, but I'm more of a one-on-one guy.
So what do you think was your greatest accomplishment?
Being involved in the church.
Oh, in the church, you mean? Wow.
Throughout your whole life?
Hold it, I wasn't ready for that one.
You wasn't ready for that one? That's what we do, man.
Because that you do that best, yeah. Yeah, I always consider every life that's touched for the better in some way as a result of contact with me, I consider to be a superlative change, a superlative accomplishment. So no, it's no one thing that I could put a date on. It's no one program, one, building I built or,
It's the
thing
people
that I started. It's just that if one life is touched for the better, then I've done and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be.